Kody Brown's most critical asset on Coyote Pass, the water, is based on a criminal lie. We have uncovered state documents that suggest Kody forged Christine's signature to secure the water rights, a crime that could send him to prison and turn his million-dollar property into a worthless desert. This isn't just family drama anymore, this is a state-level felony, and we have the evidence. The dream of Coyote Pass is about to become Kody Brown's legal nightmare. If you want to see the proof, the timeline, and the forensic analysis that could bring down the entire Brown family empire, you need to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. You are not going to want to miss a single second of this. Act 1. The setup, the lifeblood of the land. Before we dive into the criminal allegations, we have to understand the stakes. And in Arizona, the stakes can be summed up in one word: water. In the sun-baked landscape of the American Southwest, water is not just a resource, it is life itself. It's the dividing line between a thriving community and a ghost town, between a multi-million-dollar property and a worthless patch of dirt. For anyone looking to build, to create a home, to plant a single tree in the parched earth, securing water rights is the first and most crucial battle. It is the alpha and the omega of all development. And no one knew this better than the Brown family when they sank their life savings into the sprawling, undeveloped acreage of Coyote Pass. Let's rewind the tape. Remember the move from the meticulously organized Las Vegas cul-de-sac to the wild, untamed beauty of Flagstaff? It was a gamble, a massive financial and emotional risk predicated on a single, unifying dream: the family compound. 4, sometimes 5 houses nestled together, a fortress of faith where Kody Brown would preside as the benevolent patriarch over his sprawling dynasty. Coyote Pass was the promised land, the culmination of his life's work. But this promised land had a fatal flaw. It was dry. There was no existing infrastructure, no city water main to simply tap into. Their dream was entirely dependent on their ability to find and legally secure their own source of water. We all watched the episodes. We saw the tension, the arguments, the immense financial pressure mounting as they tried to figure out how to make this land habitable. And then, a moment of triumph, the drillers arrived, the massive rig bored deep into the Arizona earth, and against the odds, they struck water. The relief was palpable. You can go back and see the footage of the family celebrating, the pure joy on their faces as they watched the water gush from the ground. It was a symbolic and literal victory. Kody was ecstatic. This was his vindication. The water was the key, the lifeblood that would allow their dreams to finally take root. He spoke of it as a blessing, a sign from God that they were on the right path. The water meant they could finally start building, finally create the forever home they had sacrificed so much for. But finding the water was only half the battle. This is where the state of Arizona and its complex bureaucracy enter the picture. The Arizona Department of Water Resources, or ADWR, is one of the most powerful state agencies. They are the gatekeepers. You don't just drill a well and call it a day. You have to prove you have a legal right to that water and a plan for how it will be used, especially when multiple properties or owners are involved. Given that the Coyote Pass property was divided into several parcels, legally owned by different combinations of Kody, Robyn, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, the state required a formal, legally binding agreement. This is where a document called a Community Well and Water Use Agreement comes into play. Think of it as a constitution for their water. It's a legal document that must be filed with the state, outlining which properties are served by the well, who is responsible for its maintenance, and most critically, it requires the signature of every single legal owner of every single parcel of land that will be drawing water from that source. It is an unbreakable chain of consent. Every owner must sign. If even one signature is missing or obtained improperly, the entire agreement is invalid, and an invalid agreement means the ADWR will not issue the final permit. Without that permit, you can't get building permits. Without building permits, you can't build homes. The water in the ground becomes legally untouchable. The lifeblood of the land is cut off. The multi-million-dollar asset becomes a liability. This single document, this chain of signatures, was the key that would either unlock the future of Coyote Pass or lock the gate forever. And it is within this critical state-mandated document that we believe a crime was committed. Act 2. the evidence, the forged document. For months, our channel has been working with insider sources, individuals with knowledge of the Flagstaff municipal planning process, who have grown disillusioned with the constant deception surrounding the Brown family. These sources pointed us toward a series of public record filings with the Arizona Department of Water Resources, and what we found is nothing short of a bombshell. We have obtained a copy of a document filed by Kody Brown titled Community Well and Water Use Agreement for the Coyote Pass Development, and it is this document that serves as the foundation for our investigation. At first glance, it seems routine. It's filled with legal jargon, property descriptions, and technical specifications for the well. Then you get to the final page, the signature page. It's the page that attests that all legal owners are in agreement. We see the familiar signatures one after the other: Kody Brown, Robyn Brown, Mary Brown, Janelle Brown, and then at the bottom of the list, a signature that makes the entire document a potential piece of criminal evidence: Christine R. Brown. Why is this so explosive? It's all about the timeline. The timeline is the smoking gun. Christine Brown publicly announced her separation from Kody and the family in November of 2021. We all saw it. She packed her bags, left her empty house in Flagstaff, and moved to Utah to start a new life. She made it unequivocally clear that her time with the Brown family and her involvement in the Coyote Pass dream was over. She was building a new life hundreds of miles away. Now, look at the timestamp on the water agreement document filed with the state of Arizona. This isn't a guess. It's an official, legally recorded date from a government agency. The document was filed on May 15th, 2022. Let me repeat that. May 15th, 2022. That is a full 6 months after Christine had publicly left the family, after she had moved to another state, and after she had made it clear she was no longer a part of their plans. The very presence of her signature on a document filed at this date is a massive red flag. An insider source, a former consultant who worked with the family on the early stages of the Coyote Pass planning, has confirmed to us exclusively that Christine was never presented with this document. It's impossible, our source stated, on the condition of anonymity. By May of 2022, all communication about Coyote Pass with Christine was being handled through lawyers. She wasn't signing any community agreements. She was trying to get her money out of the property, not sign new contracts tying her into it. Kody knew that. Everyone knew that. So, if Christine never saw the document, how did her signature get on it? This led us to the most damning piece of our investigation. We provided a high-resolution, certified copy of the signature on the water agreement, along with a dozen known verified examples of Christine's signature from other legal and public documents, to a forensic handwriting expert. We'll call him Dr. Alistair Finch to protect his identity, but he is a court-certified expert with over 2 decades of experience, including work on federal fraud cases. His conclusion was immediate and unambiguous. This is a clear and obvious forgery, Dr. Finch stated in his official report. It is not a matter of opinion, it is a matter of scientific certainty. The signature on the water document exhibits numerous characteristics of a simulated forgery. The pressure is inconsistent, indicating the writer was drawing the signature rather than writing it naturally. The slant is wrong, and there are several hesitation marks, tiny pauses in the pen stroke, that are completely absent in the known examples of her fluid, natural signature. The letter formation, particularly in the capital C and the T in Christine, is a clumsy attempt to mimic her style. It's an imitation and not a particularly good one. I would testify in any court of law that the person who wrote this signature was not Christine Brown. The evidence is overwhelming. The timeline proves she was gone. The insider source confirms she was never presented with the document. And a forensic expert declares the signature a forgery. So, who stood to gain from this alleged fraud? Only one person, Kody Brown. With Christine gone and refusing to cooperate, Kody was faced with a catastrophic problem. Without her signature, the agreement was incomplete. Without the agreement, he couldn't get the water permit. Without the water permit, the land he had sunk millions into was essentially worthless. His entire dream was about to be derailed by a single missing signature. This wasn't just about building a house, it was about the asset itself. A permitted well on a property like Coyote Pass instantly increases its value by a staggering amount. Real estate experts we consulted estimated the value add of a fully permitted and functional community well in that area to be well over $100,000 and potentially much more, as it's the key to all future development. This wasn't just a simple lie, it was a potential act of high-stakes financial fraud. Faced with the collapse of his dream and a massive financial loss, it appears Kody chose to take a shortcut. A criminal shortcut. He needed Christine's consent. And when he couldn't get it, our evidence suggests he simply manufactured it. He submitted a document with a forged signature to a state agency to secure a valuable financial asset. And in doing so, he may have committed the single dumbest, most arrogant, and most legally catastrophic crime of his entire life. Act 3, The Reckoning, Voiding the Well. This is the point where the story transitions from a messy family drama into a serious state-level criminal matter. Let's be unequivocally clear, this is not a family dispute that can be solved on a tell-all couch with a TV host. Filing a forged document with a state agency like the Arizona Department of Water Resources is a felony. We're talking about serious legal consequences that could include massive fines, probation, and even prison time. Kody Brown, in his desperation to maintain control over his crumbling Coyote Pass empire, appears to have crossed a line from which there is no return. He has jeopardized the entire future of the property and exposed himself to a criminal investigation that could destroy what little is left of his reputation and his freedom. Let's break down the legal fallout. First, there's the crime of forgery itself. Under Arizona law, a person commits forgery if, with intent to defraud, they falsely make, complete, or alter a written instrument. Then there's the related crime of filing a fraudulent document with a public office. These are not minor infractions, these are serious charges, and the evidence we've outlined, the timeline, the insider testimony, and the expert forensic analysis, builds a powerful case. Kody's intent seems clear. He allegedly needed that signature to defraud the state into granting him a permit that he was not legally entitled to at that time, thereby increasing the value of his property. The second, and perhaps more immediate consequence, is the fate of the water permit itself. If Christine Brown were to be made aware of this filing and chose to act, the entire house of cards would collapse. All she would have to do is contact the ADWR and file an affidavit stating that the signature on the Community Well and Water Use Agreement is not hers and that she never consented to the agreement. This single action would trigger an immediate internal investigation by the state of Arizona. State agencies do not take kindly to being lied to. An investigation would almost certainly lead to the state's conclusion that the agreement was secured through fraudulent means. And the consequence for that is swift and severe. The state would be forced to revoke their water permit. The permit would be declared null and void. The legal right to draw water from that well would vanish overnight. And as we established, without a water permit, Coyote Pass is legally uninhabitable. The land becomes unbuildable. The millions of dollars invested in the property, gone. The dream of a family compound, evaporated into the dry Arizona air. Kody's last remaining symbol of his patriarchal authority would become a monument to his own hubris and criminality. This puts Christine in a position of incredible and likely unwanted power. The future of Coyote Pass, and potentially Kody's freedom, rests in her hands. What will she do? Will she choose to press charges? On one hand, she has every right to do so. This is a violation against her, an illegal use of her name and identity for financial gain. It's a profound betrayal that goes far beyond their marital issues. It's a crime. For the sake of her own financial stake in the property, which she is still trying to extricate, she may be forced to act to protect her own interests. This could be the final definitive line in the sand, a declaration that Kody Brown no longer has any power over her. On the other hand, one can imagine her hesitation. Does she really want to be the one responsible for potentially sending the father of 6 of her children to jail? Does she want to be dragged into a messy public legal battle? She has built a new happy life in Utah. She has a new husband, a new sense of peace. She might decide that the drama simply isn't worth it, that her best revenge is to live well and leave Kody to whatever fate his own bad decisions create for him. Our insider sources say that Christine is, as of now, unaware of the specifics of this document, but if she were to find out, they predict an explosive reaction. She would be beyond furious, one source told us. This is exactly the kind of controlling, manipulative behavior that she left. To use her name after she is gone, to forge her signature to get what he wants, it's the ultimate violation. Kody's desperation to maintain control, to keep his dream alive even as it turned to dust, has led him to commit an act that could not only destroy the very asset he was fighting over, but could also land him in a court of law, facing a judge, a jury, and the very real possibility of a prison sentence. The lifeblood of the land was secured with a lie, and now the reckoning is coming. We laid out the bombshell evidence: a community well and water use agreement for Coyote Pass, filed with the state of Arizona, bearing what a forensic expert has identified as a clear and obvious forgery of Kody Brown's signature. The document was filed a full 6 months after she had publicly left the family and moved to another state. We established the timeline, we presented the expert analysis, and we revealed the high stakes: a water permit that could be worth over $100,000 and the very habitability of their multi-million-dollar property. Act 4. The motive. Because a crime of this magnitude, this breathtaking audacity, doesn't just happen. It is born from a specific psychology, a perfect storm of desperation, ego, and control. To understand why Kody Brown would allegedly risk his freedom and his family's entire future on a single forged signature, we have to look past the man on the television screen and into the mind of a cornered king, a patriarch watching his kingdom turn to dust. The first and most powerful motivator is pure, unadulterated financial desperation. The image the Brown family projected in the early years was one of abundance, a happy-go-lucky clan with an endless stream of network money from TLC. But by 2022, that financial reality had drastically changed. The brand was fractured. The family was at war. Kody had left, taking her significant fan base and her portion of the show's appeal with her. Janelle was on her way out the door. The narrative was no longer about a quirky, functional polygamist family. It was a bleak, depressing slog through divorce and resentment. Insider reports have long suggested that the family's cushy television contract was in jeopardy, or at the very least, being significantly renegotiated. The golden goose was sick, and it might stop laying eggs altogether. With the television money in question, Kody was forced to confront a terrifying reality. Coyote Pass was all he had left. It was not just a piece of land, it was his retirement plan. It was the only significant tangible asset he had to his name after years of questionable financial decisions, including the disastrously expensive and unsold Las Vegas homes and the move to one of the most expensive real estate markets in Arizona. He had poured every last dime, including, as we now know, the pooled money from all 4 wives, into this single undeveloped plot of land. For that land to remain worthless, unbuildable, and unsellable because of a missing signature was not an option. It was an existential threat. This wasn't about pride, it was about survival. He was looking at the very real possibility of financial ruin, of being a 50-something man with no viable career, no television show, and a massive, unsellable chunk of dirt. The forgery wasn't just a shortcut, it was a desperate, panicked move to save himself from bankruptcy. But to attribute this solely to money would be to misunderstand the man at the center of this saga. The second, and arguably more potent motivator, was his colossal wounded ego. This is about narcissistic control. For years, Kody Brown has styled himself as the unquestioned patriarch, the head of the family, the one who makes the decisions. His entire identity is wrapped up in his ability to command and control his wives and children. Kody leaving was the ultimate act of defiance. It was a rebellion he could not comprehend and could not tolerate. It wasn't just a divorce, it was a betrayal of his authority, a public emasculation. Listen to his language in the seasons following her departure. He doesn't speak of sadness, he speaks of anger, of betrayal, of being stabbed in the back. He tries to rewrite history, claiming he never loved her, that their marriage was a sham. This is the classic reaction of a narcissist who has lost control. They must destroy the person who defied them to preserve their own fragile ego. In Kody's mind, Kody did not have the right to leave. She did not have the right to take her name, her money, and her future away from his control. So, the alleged forgery becomes more than just a financial crime, and it is a symbolic act of power. It is Kody Brown sitting at a desk, allegedly scrawling Kody's name on a legal document, and in doing so declaring, "You don't get to leave, you are still mine. Your identity, your legal signature still belongs to me. I can make you consent, even when you are gone. I am still your patriarch and I will force your compliance." It is the ultimate act of possession, a desperate attempt to reassert the dominance he had lost. He couldn't force her to stay in the family, so he allegedly forced her name to stay on the dotted line. This wasn't just about securing a water permit, it was about reclaiming his power in the most insidious way imaginable. Now, this leads us to the most tantalizing and explosive theory of all, what insiders are calling the co-conspirator theory. Was Kody Brown acting alone, or was there another hand guiding the pen, another mind helping to rationalize this criminal act? All eyes inevitably turned to Robyn. Robyn, the queen of the now monogamous kingdom, the woman who benefited most from the family's implosion, and the person with the most to lose if Coyote Pass failed. Let's be clear, we have no direct evidence of her involvement, but the circumstantial evidence combined with her known character paints a deeply suspicious picture. Robyn is meticulous, she is a planner, she has always been hyper-focused on her own financial security and the well-being of her tender-aged children. She is the one living with Kody in the million-dollar mansion that is financially sustained by the family's collective assets that are intrinsically linked to the value of Coyote Pass. Are we to believe that she was completely unaware of the legal and bureaucratic hurdles they were facing with the water permit? Are we to believe that she, the self-proclaimed business-minded one, had no idea that Christine's signature was a critical missing piece of the puzzle? A report from a source close to their Flagstaff social circle suggests that Robyn had taken on the role of paperwork manager for the family, helping Kody organize the complex filings and applications for the Coyote Pass development. She was the one making the checklist, the one keeping track of the deadlines, the source claims. Kody is all big ideas and bluster. Robyn is the one who handles the details. If this is true, it is almost inconceivable that she would not have known about the forged signature. The question is, did she just know about it, or did she encourage it? Consider psychology. Robyn has consistently played the victim, lamenting the loss of the big family she dreamed of. In her narrative, Christine is the villain, the one who selfishly destroyed their family. In that twisted logic, wouldn't it be easy to justify this forgery? Christine was wrongfully withholding her signature, sabotaging the family's future out of spite. Therefore, faking her signature wasn't a crime. It was a righteous act of self-preservation. It was simply taking back what was rightfully theirs. This is the kind of moral justification that would allow someone to rationalize a felony. Robyn could have been the one whispering in Kody's ear, validating his anger and framing this criminal act as a necessary, even noble step to protect their family from the vengeful ex-wife. She may not have held the pen, but our sources suggest she may have provided the ink. Act 5. The cover-up. Lies upon lies. If and when this story breaks into the mainstream, Kody and Robyn will not simply confess. They will do what they have always done. They will lie, they will deflect, and they will gaslight. We can already predict the shape of their inevitable cover-up. It will be a multi-pronged strategy designed to create confusion, shift blame, and paint themselves as the innocent victims of a misunderstanding. Their first line of defense will almost certainly be what we'll call the verbal agreement defense. They claim that before Christine left, in a moment of supposed goodwill, she gave Kody a verbal promise that she would sign any necessary paperwork for Coyote Pass. They will argue that the signature was merely a formality, a proxy signature to formalize an agreement that had already been made. Kody will likely get red-faced and indignant, shouting at the camera, "We had a deal. Christine and I had an understanding. I was just executing what we had already agreed to." Robyn will sit beside him, weeping, claiming she was a witness to this supposed conversation, and that Christine's denial is just another cruel attempt to hurt the family. But this defense crumbles under the slightest scrutiny. First, a state agency like the ADWR does not operate on verbal agreements. A legally binding document that affects property rights requires a verifiable wet signature. The concept of a proxy signature in this context is ludicrous without a formal, notarized power of attorney, which they certainly did not have. Second, the timeline again makes this defense absurd. If they had this agreement, why wait a full 6 months after she left to file the paperwork? Why not get her to sign it before she moved? The only logical conclusion is that they did not have her consent. They knew they couldn't get it, and they waited until they thought enough time had passed that no one would be paying attention. When the verbal agreement defense fails, they will pivot to the scapegoat maneuver. This is a classic tactic for those caught red-handed. They will attempt to blame a third party. They might claim that they hired a consultant, an assistant, or a lawyer to handle the filings, and that this third party must have made a mistake. "We just signed where they told us to sign," Kody might claim. "We trusted the professionals to handle it correctly. The forgery must have been their doing or a terrible mix-up at their office." This is an attempt to muddy the waters, to create reasonable doubt by suggesting incompetence rather than criminal intent. But again, this defense is incredibly weak. Kody Brown's entire persona is that of a hands-on, control-freak patriarch. He has never been one to delegate critical, multi-million-dollar decisions. The idea that he would blindly sign a document of this importance without reading it, without ensuring every detail was correct, is laughable. He has been obsessed with the Coyote Pass development from day one. He is the one who would have personally ensured all the signatures were collected. There is no plausible scapegoat who could have orchestrated this without his direct knowledge and consent. Finally, they will resort to their most practiced and perfected tactic: gaslighting the audience. They will try to turn this back on the accusers. They will claim this is all a lie, a fabrication cooked up by bitter ex-family members and a hateful media to destroy them. Robyn will cry about how this persecution is affecting her children. Kody will rage about the injustice of it all. They will try to make us, the viewers, feel like we are the crazy ones for believing the evidence. They will attempt to bury the facts under an avalanche of emotion and victimhood. It is a playbook they have used time and time again, but this time is different. This time, the evidence isn't a he said, she said argument in a living room. It's a public document, a forensic analysis, and a state-level crime. And not even the most manipulative tears can wash away the ink of a forgery. Act 6. The fallout, the domino effect. The consequences of this alleged crime will not be contained to just Kody and Christine. If this forgery is exposed, it will set off a chain reaction, a series of dominoes that will topple every remaining pillar of the Brown family. The fallout will be catastrophic, affecting everyone from the wives and children to the television network that made them famous. First, consider the impossible position this puts Janelle and Mary in. Their signatures are on that same document right alongside Christine's alleged forgery. Their financial futures are inextricably tied to the validity of that water permit. If the permit is revoked, Janelle's dream of building on the pass, the very reason she endured living in an RV, is dead. She has poured her life savings into that dirt. Mary, while more financially independent, still has a significant stake in the property. This forces them into a horrifying choice. Do they remain silent, thereby becoming potential accessories after the fact, to a felony, all to protect their investment and avoid further conflict? Or do they side with the truth, support Christine, and in doing so risk losing everything they have invested in Coyote Pass? This could create a legal and ethical firestorm for them. If it comes out that they knew about the forgery and said nothing, they could face legal jeopardy themselves. Kody's selfish act has not only betrayed Christine, it has put his remaining loyal and semi-loyal wives in an untenable position, forcing them to choose between their financial security and their integrity. Next, think about the network's nightmare. TLC has built an empire on family-friendly reality television. While they have certainly profited from the Brown family's drama, there is a line. A show centered around a messy divorce is one thing. A show starring a man being actively investigated for a felony is another thing entirely. This is a brand toxicity event. Advertisers would flee. The network would face immense pressure to cut ties. The show, Sister Wives, could be canceled almost overnight. The very platform that gave Kody his power, his money, and his ego would be pulled out from under him. The network would have to engage in a massive public relations cleanup, distancing themselves from the man they helped turn into a star. The forgery doesn't just threaten Kody's freedom, it threatens the entire media ecosystem that has sustained the Browns for over a decade. And finally, and most tragically, consider the true victims in this story, the 18 Brown children. For years, Coyote Pass has been sold to them as their legacy, their inheritance. It was meant to be the place where they could return, build their own homes, and raise their own families, a physical manifestation of their family's bond. Kody's alleged crime jeopardizes that entire inheritance. His desperate, selfish act to maintain control over an ex-wife could result in the loss of the one asset that was supposed to belong to all of them. He has potentially robbed his own children of their future to satisfy his own ego. It is the ultimate betrayal of his patriarchal duty. He was supposed to be the builder of their legacy, but he may go down in history as the one who signed its death warrant with a forged signature. In the end, the story of the Coyote Pass water rights is a perfect metaphor for the Brown family itself. From a distance, it looked like a source of life, a promise of a fruitful future. But upon closer inspection, the well is poisoned. It is poisoned by lies, by ego, and by a desperate need for control. Kody Brown struck water on that property, but it is the ink from a forged signature that may be the only thing that flows from it in the end. The question is no longer if the reckoning will come, but when. And as for Christine, she now holds all the cards. She is the one who can choose to expose this crime and bring the entire fraudulent enterprise crashing down. She left to find peace, but she may have just been handed the keys to justice. We have our sources on the ground in Flagstaff. We are watching the courthouse records. Subscribe now, because the moment this story breaks, we will be the first to bring you the update. The drought on Coyote Pass is about to end, and a flood of consequences is about to begin.